Hello, welcome to Once Upon a Surgery. I'm the host, Carrie Berlet, wife of world-renowned plastic surgeon, Dr. Anthony Berlet. Today, we're going to shift gears a little bit. We've focused mainly on cosmetic surgery up until this point. Today, we're going to talk about reconstructive surgery as a result of a traumatic accident. My guest today, Alyssa, went through something horrifying and was left virtually unrecognizable. With the help of Dr. Berlet, she looks obviously more beautiful than ever, and we're gonna hear her story. Cheers, Alyssa. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to meet you. So, I have wanted to meet you for so many years. I heard your story, and actually your story is really the inspiration for Once Upon a Surgery.
I love that.
And so it was like had just started dating Dr. Berlet, and we were out to dinner, and across the restaurant there was a man and a woman, and they were like, Dr. Berlet, Dr. Berlet. And, and this happens to us everywhere. He's recognized, he's kind of a pseudo celebrity, as you know. And they were like, and he was like, oh yeah, and I think he had done your surgery, several years before. And they were like, oh, and they tell me very seriously, your husband, he said, saved my daughter's life. And it was your dad and your sister.
My sister.
Yes. Yep. And she was like, and they're looking so serious. And meanwhile, I had just been to, and they were like, oh, and she's getting married. Either that or you were around the time, either you were just getting married or you were recently married. And they said to me, really how, so serious that they had saved your life. And I had just been to a wedding where he had done basically cosmetic surgery on the entire wedding party. So like a very attractive wedding party, obviously. But anyway, so this is what I'm thinking, happened to you. And then, so we have dinner, and then after they left, Dr. Berlet tells me the story. And I mean, horrifying. I mean, he said, your dad is, a high-powered lawyer. You were in a horrible accident.
I was.
And basically every bone in your face was shattered. Like the orbit of your eye was out or something.
From what I'm told, yes.
I'm not this, I mean, I don't think you were conscious when this happened. No. Your nose was inverted.
Yes.
And
really crazy.
Yeah, and he said that your father, who was obviously a very important person, was in Dr. Berlet's arms crying because he was...
I very much believe that.
He was so worried about you. But so I'm like, I want to hear this story. And I've that kind of stuck with me because it was that was the start of so many stories that I've heard of people telling me, your husband saved my life, your husband, changed my life. And so that was, I never knew your name.
Yep.
And so I'm so happy that he, tracked you down.
Yes.
So I could have you here.
Yeah, so it's great. We actually work together now, kind of.
Really?
Yeah, so I'm a speech pathologist at Chilton Medical Center where he does a lot of his work. So sometimes we see each other in the hallway. So
no way.
Come full circle.
Full
Yes.
circle.
Yes.
Wow.
Yep.
And now, before we get into your story, now you are married now, right?
I'm married, yes, yep.
And two kids?
We'll be celebrating 10 years in March.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yep.
So wait, 10 years. So then that must have been it must have been right after, you must have just gotten married. That's what it was.
Yep.
That's insane. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so take me back. I mean, this is, and I hope it's if it's too traumatic, let me know. But take me back to what happened? You were in some kind of accident, and so how did you get such injuries?
So it was November of 2011. I was in a really bad motor vehicle accident and was ejected from the car. So they had brought me to St. Joe's Trauma Center in Patterson.
You were ejected out of the car?
Yes. Yep. And so now obviously I don't remember any.
Obviously, yes.
I'm
like, you can't.
Right?
I can't,
yeah,
yes.
of course. So everything that I do remember, well, not even really remember, everything that I say about the accident is all told to me secondhand.
Of course.
But it's been about 14 years now, so I do have a pretty good understanding of kind of everything that went down. So when I was brought to St. Joe's, I guess kind of right after all of the life-saving procedures,
Right.
were completed and, CAT scans and everything were done, and we knew that I was going to have some plastic surgery done. My dad, wanted to make sure only the best was going to touch me.
I mean, I can't imagine how horrified, like, your father must have been, like, just seeing his daughter.
Yeah,
with, like,
right.
Just, I mean, like,
Right.
your face just
Yeah.
totally, I mean,
I was early 20s, I had just gotten into NYU for grad school. I was, living what I thought was going to be, the best couple years of my life,
Right.
young and living in New York City. And so, I'm glad that they, didn't let anyone touch me. They waited for the best to come in and kind of work his magic.
wow.
And
Yeah. And it's what's crazy to me, because you were thrown from a car,
Mm-hmm.
but he said that, I mean, all this damage to your face, but he said that, like, the only other injury really was that you had a shattered pelvis or
Yeah.
something.
Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I mean, so it was just like, it must have, like, just got, like, all... like,
Yeah.
Wow.
Luckily, nothing with the brain,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Because it seems like, I mean, it was, if he was called that night up, because
Mm-hmm.
clearly, I guess, like, it was clear you were going to live, but just, like, not
Right.
look...
Right.
or
Right.
they were concerned
Exactly.
about all of
Right.
the facial structure.
And what single 21-year-old wants to
Right.
be like that? So,
Of
yeah.
course. Yeah. Wow. And of course you don't remember much, but then, and so, I mean, do you know, because, like, I mean, you can't tell, right? That, I mean,
No,
if
you
I
really
look at your
can't,
face,
no.
I can, you would never guess
Nope.
that you, I mean, again, that anything had happened to you.
Right. When I tell people the story and, explain to them the different surgeries that I had on my face, they're shocked. They can't tell.
Right.
Like, where are your scars? Where's anything? You look so natural. It looks great.
Right.
So,
And then, and were you in a coma?
yeah, so I was definitely unconscious for a couple weeks and intubated for a couple weeks. And, it's funny. The one thing I don't remember much, but one thing I do remember is meeting Dr. Berlet, I guess, later on in the hospitalization, and him saying, I literally was holding your nose in my hands, and I thought to myself, like, I have to put this back together for her. That's
Oh my gosh.
truly one thing that sticks with me, and I remember to this day.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Yep. Crazy.
So that is crazy. And so, do you know, like, so, I mean, I'm sure you don't, when it's that kind of severe surgery. So are they able to operate when you're still in a coma? Like, is that, you're like, I don't know.
I think so.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and there's like, because
Yeah.
it didn't have to, I mean,
Right.
like, and they were sure, because was it just that you were in a coma, or did they keep you in that because of all the surgery, like all of the reconstruction that had to happen?
Yeah, so I think that
medically induced?
Right, medically induced. Yes.
Okay.
that's what- yeah.
Okay, because they were sure, they knew you were going to live through this.
Right, right.
And then they were just trying to rebuild basically
Piece
the
me back
structure of your
together.
face.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Wow. And then, and do you know, because, like, I mean, like, the orbit of the eye, I mean, like, I just don't, I mean, and we'll have to talk to Berlet, and we'll have Dr. Berlet speak about this, because I don't know, like where in the process, like, is the face first, or the nose, or, like, how you get to the point,
So, I had a lot of surgeries during that first hospitalization, I guess a lot of more, like, trauma reconstruction surgeries, but, I had follow-up afterwards.
Of course.
And obviously that I remember more.
Yeah, like through the, like, was it like several months, like it was like, was it multiple surgeries? I mean,
Multiple
obviously
surgeries,
I'm sure multiple initially, but then I'm sure they can't do everything perfectly, and so there would be
Right, exactly.
follow-ups.
Right,
Okay.
lots of follow-up, right, exactly. I mean, really only throughout, that first year or two, I haven't really had anything, that was about 14 years ago, so I haven't really needed much, which is amazing.
Right.
I mean, speaks
Yes.
to, his work, so.
Do you remember, so, and like, if you look at pictures before the accident and after, like, did you recognize yourself in the mirror, or did, like, what?
So initially, I feel like there was swelling and, of course, initially things looked a little off, but looking at those pictures to looking at pictures now, I feel like you would never really be able to tell that I,
Right.
have metal in my face at all. So,
Right. Oh, so you have metal in your face. That's how it
So he
happens.
had to rebuild the orbit of my eye with metal.
Metal.
Yeah.
Okay.
The cheek was brought up, I think. I don't know.
Okay. We'll get
the details.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll bring them in.
Yes.
But wow. So there's metal. Is there? Do you know what he did with your nose? Is there like cartilage?
Cartilage.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. He tends to take from the ear.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Like this, I've learned
exactly.
now.
Yes. Yep.
Wow. I mean, like, that is amazing. Because it's like, this is not like it was a cosmetic thing where there's like a before and after, and like I'm sure you're happy to have like, you know, like that you have a normal looking face, but like, I mean, you look absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
Right?
Thank you.
And like, I mean, I wonder if anyone who knew you before, like, you're recognized from like people from your childhood who might not.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
That's
which honestly
amazing.
is what I wanted, right? Like I wanted to look like myself, especially after something so traumatic happens. You don't want to come out looking like a different person. So you know, the fact that he was able to keep me looking like myself, you know, I think is amazing.
Do you think that? I mean, obviously, just being in an accident of any kind is so traumatic, and you're focused just really on like, you know, there's an emotional and you know aspect beyond your physical appearance. Like, do you think that like, I mean, obviously it's going to be easier to deal with like looking, you know, more. But when you were healing, like emotionally, were you like?
Oh yeah, it's so hard. So listen, my mom has always, since I was little, said when you look good, you feel good, and you do good, right? So. I mean, she would never let us wear sweatpants to school because, you know, if you're wearing sweatpants, you're not looking good. And that means you're not feeling good. That means you're not doing good, right?
So I should tell it to my daughter. Yes, everyone wears sweatpants these days.
Yes, I know. It's crazy to me. It's crazy to me.
Yes.
So, you know, it's the same thing. When I, you know, was like post-surgery, I wasn't looking good. I wasn't feeling good. And like I said before, you know, I was in my early 20s. I was just living in New York City. I mean, like this was supposed to be the best time of my life, right?
Wow.
So after, you know, the touch-ups and, you know, getting back to feeling like myself and looking good and feeling good, you know, I mean, that's what gave me the confidence really to finish grad school, to, you know,
so you
dating.
did finish after.
Oh yeah, I finished.
Okay.
Yep. You know, I didn't fall behind at all. I, you know, kept up with the work as much as I could and graduated on time.
Wow.
You know, yeah. So, I mean, truly, you know, right. He didn't save my life in the sense that he was doing CPR on me and making my heart come back. But, you know, he saved me in other ways. He saved my confidence. He, you know, he really, you know, we truly always say Dr. Berlet saved my life because, you know, it really feels like he did.
Wow. Yeah. And so there, like, even with all of this cosmetic damage, there wasn't neurological damage.
Neurological damage.
Okay.
Thank God. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that it really is a miracle, you know.
Very much. Yes.
And that,
yes.
like, and he kind of performed his own miracle, but but really, I mean, that you were so lucky when you have that kind of facial injury.
Yeah.
that's, you know.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
And now, like, and when did you? How many years after that did you meet your husband, or were you already dating your husband?
So no, I met my husband. Oh my gosh, she's gonna get mad at me there. Forget the year that we met. So I was living in Philadelphia. He was my next door neighbor. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but he didn't know you before, and he
didn't know me before.
Yes.
Nope. You know, he too was shocked when he heard the story.
Wow. Right. Because you're just, I mean, you're just a beautiful woman, right?
Like, yeah. So, you know, he was shocked, but he's great.
Right. That's amazing. And I'm like, you're one of the few, because often I hear like you haven't been back to Dr. Berlet for any cosmetic surgery since then. But do you know anyone who has?
Oh yeah, plenty of people. Yes, my sisters. Yep.
Well, I'm sure. Like,
for sure. And I mean, listen, I'm 34. Like, we're getting to that point.
Right. Well, you're still very young.
I'm going to be knocking on. I'm 35. I said 34. I'm 35. Yeah, I'm going to be knocking on Dr. Berlet's door. Very sure.
But there's no. I'm not saying I don't think you need anything, but I'm just like it's just.
Well, you know, here's the thing. We also
like, what else? Yeah. You look. I mean, like everything looks perfect.
I mean, aging may also look different for me than it does for other people, right? I mean, especially with everything that I've had done. I think that it totally could. And so, you know, as I get older, you know, and things need to be done.
Like, it's just interesting, like having metal in your cheek.
Right, what that will do.
We should ask.
Yeah,
we'll
have to, it'll be a good.
We need to talk to Dr. Berlet about this because I'm like, will it? Like, I don't know, maybe.
Right.
Because he always says that as you age, you lose volume.
Right.
But then maybe you're going to age better than everyone
Right,
else.
and maybe, I don't know. This in here seems a little, like I could start using a little something. So we'll see.
I mean,
we'll talk to the expert.
Right.
Yeah.
But no, I think that is an interesting question. Like, now people are going to start putting metal in there.
Yeah, right.
I was like, or is that what they're doing with these celebrities?
Yeah,
right? Is that what Kris Jenner did? Right?
My gosh, she looks amazing.
Yes, right? That is
Amazing.
fascinating.
Yes.
But like, this is, I mean, I'm just like so impressed and I'm so happy that I finally met you because I was like, yes. Because that was just like really to see like these people so seriously that your husband saved, and they were like, and they looked at me so seriously, and I'm just in my head thinking, like, okay, was it like which part of the body was?
Right. I mean, truly, we all, my whole family, my grandmother, my dad, my sisters, my mom, we love him. We feel like he truly is like, a part of our family now. I mean, not only is he so skillful, so, wonderful at what he does, but he truly was so caring that day and always going forward, truly, truly caring. And so that just, really meant a lot to us, especially in that traumatic night. Yeah.
Like, I mean, and so like thinking back, I mean, like, and so the first time you remember, like, you just remember early on him telling you that, like, do you remember the first time that you like, were out of contact?
A little bit. I remember thinking that I was oversleeping for school, and I kept like,
you're like,
I kind of know a little bit of sign language, so I kept signing like school. Like, why am I not at school?
Really?
Yeah.
Because you couldn't. Were you? Because you were.
Because I was I was intubated with the breathing tube, right? So I couldn't talk.
Gosh.
Yeah.
I can't imagine like having or going through that myself, or having a child go.
Oh gosh, no.
It's all. I mean, I don't know if it was harder for you or for your.
Oh, I'm sure absolutely for my parents,
for everyone
my sisters,
in your
absolutely.
Family.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. Definitely.
Wow.
Yep.
But so you were assigning school, and then were they able to?
Yeah. Then my mom was able to say like, you were in a car accident, you're in the hospital, it's okay, calm down.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it was, you said, how long were you in the hospital? It was.
I would think I was in the hospital for about a month, and then I was at Kessler Rehab in West Orange for a little while.
And so what did you, like with rehab, it was just probably related to movement?
It was related, right, I think more so to my pelvis, yeah.
And have there been any issues? I mean, I just can't, to me it's crazy that your nose was literally, like he said, inverted. He had your nose in his hand.
Right.
But so, and have you had any issues breathing?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I still have a little bit of sinus issues, yeah.
Right.
But I mean, it's okay. It's, from based on what I could have been like or could have had.
Right.
Yeah.
And like exercising, like all of that.
It's okay. Yeah.
It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm sure it took, like, you're not.
I mean, like, of course, lower back pain now and things like that I think are probably related.
Right.
But yeah, we move on.
Clearly, this is not a typical Once Upon a Surgery episode, and we need a little more insight into some of the questions we had from the expert, Dr. Berlet, who performed these procedures. So we're gonna bring Dr. Berlet in, and we're gonna ask him some of these questions related to the accident that obviously Alyssa, as an unconscious patient, would not know, the answers to. Now we have Dr. Berlet, and we have some pressing questions. It's pretty miraculous what you did. And I want to get back to the process of when she, when you were brought in, what state she was in, and the order of, the procedures. She says she remembers you told her that you were holding her nose in your hand, and you were like, I need to, make this right for this girl or whatever.
So the initial process starts with aligning the teeth. The bite.
Really?
Yeah, so you wire the whole jaw back closed again. Mm-hmm. She had really had multiple fractures through her maxilla, mostly into her left eye orbit, zygoma, blew out her left orbit, and her nose was literally reversed into her face. It was just complete impacted.
And so so you started with the jaw. So, I mean, is each of these, are you doing this all, I mean, like, this is all, like, one day?
No.
Okay.
No. So
okay,
the initial procedure was to set the teeth in order and then plate all the bones. There's certain structures through the face that you have to realign to get the height and the width. of
Okay.
the face. So those plates were all put in place. At the time, we had to hold off on her. She had an orbital floor fracture on the left side that her had so much swelling that we couldn't repair it at the time. Because I
Okay.
was afraid it was going to stretch the nerve on the orbit, and she could lose sight in that left eye.
So what did the eye? So you had to leave that. So then, what did it look like? I mean, and was her eye? So her eye was still. I mean, she still has her same eye, right?
Yes, same eye.
Okay.
So the eye was in place, but they call that a blowout fracture on that side. But she also had a zygoma fracture. She had maxillary fractures called Lefort fractures, and her nose was completely, like I said, imploded into her face. Your poor father. He cried on my shoulder many nights.
I'm sure he did.
He was awful. He was so sad.
So I mean, so then did this just become almost like your full-time job? Like, so you are doing multiple surgeries, and so then how much time is in between each one? And so she's in a medically induced coma during this, or
I think she was actually.
okay,
She had a hip fracture as well. So
Okay.
that was an issue as well, because you don't want to lose blood, because hip fractures bleed into the
okay.
internally.
I thought you said pelvis. Okay, hip and pelvis,
Hip
or is it
was
related? I guess
it was
it's the same thing.
It was
Okay.
pelvis.
Okay.
But the pelvis fractures bleed quite a bit, so that was stabilized.
Okay.
And then we went in once she was hemodynamically stabilized. We were able to set the basic fractures in her face, and that was the initial setting. And then your family was very concerned about your nose, because it really wasn't there.
Oh
It
my.
was just sort of impacted, and oftentimes we'll take a piece of bone from the skull and try to create a ridge here, but it doesn't look right to me ever. So I opted not to do that. And so we went in, and when I went to do the nose, basically when I took the septum just basically came out in my hand.
So you had to basically almost go into her face to bring her nose out.
Well, I lifted her nose up through an incision through the nose, like I normally do in a rhinoplasty.
Okay.
When I lifted it up, you separate the walls of mucosa that where the septum is, and when I did that, the septum just basically fell out into my hand.
And so, oh my God. And so, I mean, is this normal? So those are all of her bones in her nose right now.
Correct.
Okay.
It's all her.
Okay.
But the nose is half bone and half cartilage.
Right.
Her bridge right here was still intact.
Okay.
Right there was still intact, but the entire septum, part of the bones on the side were broken, and the whole, the maxilla was broken, and the cartilage that was there, which is basically a sort of a wafer of cartilage and bone, basically just came out.
Okay.
So I was able to use part of that, put it back in as an L, so, wiring it back to the bone up here and to the base above her teeth here. So I got the L there. Then I was able to take some of that cartilage, build the side walls so she didn't have just a ridge.
Okay.
And then I took ear cartilage and I rebuilt the tripod,
Wow.
supported that.
Wow.
So that was it's not typical for these facial fractures, because oftentimes, like I said, they'll take a little strip of bone from the outer table of the skull and they'll wire it here, but it tends to look like sort of like a cantilever, and it just doesn't look right.
Okay.
So we were able to give her a structure in her nose. It still looks pretty great.
Okay. And so you rebuilt what part of the process was the nose? Was that the last thing? Or so you rebuilt the nose, but the orbit is still...
So at that point, we had stabilized where her teeth are, reset the height of the face and the width of the face, and then that orbit was still, she had so much swelling that I didn't want to get to that yet. We did the nose maybe 4 or 5 days later,
Okay.
sort of just to get it out, so that it had to give her a chance. So we did that.
And this whole time they knew that she was going to survive.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So that was never a problem. And but she was in a coma, but it was, and they knew that she was going to be okay, and they could assess that neurologically she was fine.
She was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
She had no brain injury.
Yeah.
So that was all fine. It was once again, the pelvis
Right.
is a big issue because of bleeding. So you want to make sure they're hemodynamically stable, which means the blood pressure is proper and they're healthy and they can tolerate anesthesia. and then once that was set, then we could set the face.
Is this crazy? Did you know all of this?
So crazy.
Is this disturbing?
Right. No,
Or
it's okay. It's okay.
It's really fascinating.
It is
that all of
fascinating.
this. I mean, holy.
Yeah, and then we were just okay. Then we we're going to stabilize it, and then come back and do the eye or whatever. We'd give it a chance, and then ultimately, I think you saw somebody else that do the eye.
Was it? She said she has metal now.
Yeah, she has a piece of titanium probably holding the
Okay,
eyeball off that orbital floor, but you had to wait for that swelling to go down,
I see.
and that was weeks
Okay.
for that.
And so that was a question we had. So knowing that she has metal now here, right? Is she going to age differently?
She shouldn't. I mean, basically, she was 21 when this happened.
So the metal's more like a bone, right? But so
Well,
it's
the metal just holds the bone in place until it heals,
I see.
but the growth plates in the face are done.
Okay.
So she shouldn't age differently. So as long as you have
Right.
the underlying structure, soft tissue, we age by losing volume.
Right, but I wasn't sure if there was something with like I don't know if it was
shouldn't
metal
accelerate
versus
it. No,
okay.
it shouldn't
No, I
accelerate
thought it
because-
might help it, like if it kept somehow. I don't know. Like,
Maybe she's age proof.
I mean, like she looks great. Like,
she's
I mean,
back,
she's
right?
still very young, but
Yeah, no.
But-
You've had a baby since then, right?
Two
Two.
babies, yeah.
2 babies. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
They're 7
yes,
and 4.
yes.
When you go through this process, you're 21, you think, oh my God, my life's over.
Oh, yeah.
I'm never going to get back to any of this. The next thing you know,
Yeah.
you're married. I saw your wedding pictures. They
Yeah.
were stunning.
Thank you.
Beautiful
Thank
bride.
you. Thank you.
And that's very heartwarming. And then later in life, I'd run into you in the hospital.
I know.
You work
Yes.
in the hospital.
Yes.
and I get to-
Yep.
That's amazing. And did you, as you were doing any of that reconstruction, did you ask for like a picture of her before, like so you could know what you were working towards?
Actually, I did get pictures
Okay.
from the family.
Okay. Did that help you think? So then you could like
Well, you know,
visualize what this person who has like a face that's, basically smashed in.
Yeah.
Like what
Well, she had no, it wasn't something you could really tell. You just basically have to put the bones back together. I think we got them together anatomically the way they're supposed to be.
Uh-huh.
Her nose is very different than what she had.
Okay.
She had a bigger nose. It was a little wider.
So you got a smaller nose out of this.
Exactly. Look, perfect.
From what I can remember.
Okay.
Yeah. Sounds great.
But I mean, like she showed me pictures from before, and I mean, she is still the same person,
Oh,
like
yeah.
yes, yeah,
100%.
yeah.
Well, I think she might be a different person.
Well, I mean,
You
obviously,
survive this, you
Yes.
become a different
well,
person.
yes, but I'm
Yeah,
saying
yeah.
like inside it. But like again, it's like if you knew her before this, you wouldn't be like, who is this, right? Like by any means.
I don't think so.
I don't think
right?
so.
Yeah.
You have
Nope.
to ask your
Nope.
family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen your whole family forever.
Yep.
Since then.
Yep.
Very sweet. Your sisters.
Yep.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. And we had that opportunity to meet her whole family at Lunello's.
It was Sear
It
at
was
Sear.
Yep.
one night. Yeah, that was
Yeah, that's. I was telling her that I was like, if it's that sort of inspired this whole podcast was that particular story, because what it was so funny because there was something about a wedding, and they had said, oh, he saved my sister's life, and then the wedding, and then we had just been to the wedding where you had done a lot of cosmetic surgery on them, so that was in my head, and I'm sort of like laughing at them, like, oh, he saved a life, right?
Yeah, that was
It's like very different circumstances, yes. So.
It's a wonderful field. You get a lot of, such a variation of what you do. 1 minute you're, transferring muscles and bones into a face from other parts of the body. Then you're rebuilding bones on the face. You're bringing,
Yeah.
bringing a nose back that wasn't there, basically, versus a nose that, may not be as pretty as you like it to be. And then, yeah, it's just insane. And then you can really change lives that way.
Yeah.
A lot of fun, right?
Yeah.
Well, good work. And that's all I can say.
Thank you.
And I'm so happy that you tracked her down because I really wanted to talk to her.
No, it was amazing running into her in the hospital. Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was
What are
cool.
you doing here?
Yep.
Really?
Full circle moment.
Wait, did you guys recognize? Who recognized who?
I recognized him.
Really?
Yeah, right away. Yep.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right away.
You did. Well, I recognize you once you recognize
Yep.
me.
Mhm. We also had masks on at that point, so it was hard. Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
great.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm.
I have memorable eyes. Like,
Yeah, I know. With masks, we all look different, right?
Yep.
That's awesome. But Dr. Berlet, my husband Tony, thank you so much for coming on. This was very helpful. And I have such admiration for you. And
I'm glad to be part of this story.
but really, it was like, this for me, it's like full circle, because it was like hearing her story, then your love for the Hallmark Channel. That was kind of like where my, what got my wheels turning, thinking about this idea of just interviewing your patients, because it is really everywhere I go with you, and like I hear, your husband changed my life, your husband saved my life, your husband, and so I'm like, there are just so many stories that is fascinating. And the procedures themselves are fascinating too. Particularly this one was so complex. It's just crazy to me, right?
It's a blessing to be able to give people lives back, or just changing their lives. It's wonderful.
So I hope that you enjoyed this very different, dramatic, traumatic, but transformational episode of Once Upon a Surgery. I just want to say cheers to Alyssa. You look like a beauty queen. Like, look at this. I mean, like, can you imagine? I can't imagine what you went through. Like, you would never know. And I can tell that you're a beautiful person, both on the inside and the outside.
Thank you.
And I mean, I'm so sorry this happened to you, but really what an amazing outcome. And thank you so much for coming. So
Thanks
cheers.
for having me. Cheers.
Cheers to you, and cheers to Dr. Berlet. So thank you for watching this episode of Once Upon a Surgery with Alyssa. I was fascinated by this episode. Don't forget to subscribe so you can hear more like this. And please comment. I'd love to hear other topics that you're interested in.